Good day, fellow deal makers. Welcome to the Deal Scout. On today's show, we're going to have a conversation from someone who went from MD, from a doctor, to entrepreneur, investor, and now helping other doctors learn that game. Dr. Pranay, welcome to the show.
Hey, Josh, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Where do you call home?
Los Angeles, California.
Super cool. All right. So you guys are 3 hours behind us. It's 3 o'clock at
hmm
recording. It's your lunchtime, and you're taking the
Yep.
time to talk deals. I appreciate that. So, Dr. Pranay, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are?
Yeah. So I'm a medical doctor, as you mentioned, a physician, still practice, which a lot of people are surprised. But I love medicine. But what I wanted and what I've thought about is freedom and flexibility. Unfortunately, regardless of the paycheck, right now I'm trading my time for money, and I wanted to detach that. When I realized that either business or real estate would be able to help me do that. I started with real estate and eventually turned that into a real estate business. That's a little bit different than just investing in real estate, which I'm happy to talk about. But now I realized that it's a lot of work, and I kind of wish someone else would do it all for me.
Yeah.
But there wasn't with someone doing it in a way that I wanted to do, with kind of the same integrity that I practice medicine, with really a bespoke experience. So we decided to create that. And, fortunately, we bought about $200 million worth of real estate in the past 16 months. And so we've been fortunate that other people have believed in what we're doing and helped us grow.
Awesome work, man. Really great job. Now, this might just be like this, something that I've heard from my own doctor friends. They're typically really good at making money, right? Like they go to school and they make all this money, and then they're paying off their debts, and then they bought some cars, and they're paying off the cars, and maybe a divorce or two, and they're paying that off, and they're doing this, and they look at the end of the day, and they make great money, and they go, where did it all go? And where could I invest? Because like one of my neighbors, I have no time. All right. So being a doctor yourself, have you experienced that from your peers in the industry?
Yeah. And what happens to a lot of people is they get overwhelmed. Right. And you've heard this in analysis paralysis, right? So what our goal was really to have one deal available at the time. It's vetted by us. We partner with best in class. So, it's not a bunch of doctors that are doing real estate. We partner with people who are best in class. And most importantly, we negotiate, we vet the deal. But most importantly, and this is what separates us from other groups, is that we have a full asset management team. That means we're looking at the property every week. We're visiting the property as often as every 2 weeks. We're talking to property management. We're looking at the financials. We actually, some of the partners that we partnered with, they're like, we don't even do all this. And we're like, we don't care. We want to do this. But because we're not looking at the day to day, I'm not calling maintenance. I'm not dealing with toilets and stuff, we're really able to maximize profit and really look at the big picture.
Awesome. 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 So before we go any further, because I just don't want to forget, you're a fellow podcaster. Why don't you give a shout out to your podcast?
Yeah. Yeah. So I have a podcast called From MD to Entrepreneur. And I've realized that a lot of times that flexibility, that freedom that people want, it's created by business. Like your podcast is very successful, and multiple podcasts that you have, and you've created businesses from that, and it's kind of a chicken and egg thing. But regardless of what you want to do, I think entrepreneurship and starting your business really gives you that freedom, even if that freedom is to talk to interesting people like Josh, or go to events or getting asked to talk on stage. And so you need a platform, and you need someone that can act as an inspiration. And, I've had a ton of mentors and people really pulling me by the shoulders, not dragging me along the way, and so I created the podcast so that I can interview people in my circle and really ask how they did it and what skills that they have for someone that's a physician entrepreneur. Because, most of the things about entrepreneurship are all about bootstrapping, and I believe in working lean, but we doctors have some resources, but the biggest issue is we have no time. right? So how do you fit some entrepreneurship in when you're working 80 hours a week? And that's kind of what we talk about, how to get that high yield and move the needle as much as you can
Yeah.
without sacrificing your health, without sacrificing your time with your family. Because in the end, if you sacrifice all that, it doesn't matter what kind of successes you get.
Yeah. Man, so great. So you talk about this on your show. What inspired you to start the show?
Yeah, I realized that I wanted to help people, to make an impact. And right now, this might change in the future, but there's no monetization, meaning I don't make any money from it, and I don't see that happening in the near future. I wanted a couple goals. One, I wanted to talk to interesting people, and this gives me an avenue to be able to do that, right? If I reached out to Josh and just say, "Hey, could I pick your brain?" He'd want to do that, but he wouldn't be able to, because probably a million people a day has to take up his time, right? But if I say, hey, you want to get on my podcast and I'll get on your podcast, all of a sudden we're providing value to each other and we become friends and so on. So number one. But two, I realized I just didn't have the time to talk to as many doctors as reach out to me. I make my calendar available to everyone, and I made a special page for your guests if they want to reach out to me. But for those people, I just wasn't able to impact as many lives as I wanted. So I created the podcast so they can hear me talking to other people in real time. And then if they have any questions, they can email me or reach out.
Yeah. Now, what kind of physician are you? You're an MD, but
Yeah.
is there a specific area that you focus in?
Yeah. So I'm a hospitalist. My specialty is internal medicine. And it's a relatively new profession. What that means is if you go to the hospital, say you break a leg or something else, and they say, hey, Josh, you got to stay tonight. Someone's going to take care of you. Then I would be the doctor that sees you for that stay.
Super cool. Super cool. And how long have you been doing that? I'm trying to get a gauge
Yeah.
for how old you are, Dr. Pranay.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been doing that for 5 years.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
You
kind of
look
hard
really
to.
young. You age really well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's because we're hidden in the underground library for most of our life in medicine.
Exactly. Awesome. So, all right, let's go back to when you were, middle school, high school.
Mhm.
Did you always want to be a doctor, or what did you want to be when you were younger?
Yeah. So one of the few that always wanted to be a doctor since really as early as I can remember.
Really?
But just as importantly, I wanted to do a lot of other stuff. So I wanted to do medicine, but I didn't want that to be my only identity. I did a lot of art shows. I really enjoyed art and curating art shows. I did art shows for charity. I wanted the podcast, like you heard, real estate. And in the starting in medicine, it's funny because in the starting, they say they want you to be nice and well-rounded. But as soon as you get in, they're like, yeah, all those hobbies you had, yeah, forget about them because you're not going to do them for the next 10 years, right? And so fortunately, after I graduated, I was able to pick some up. And that's why, real estate is kind of a hobby and a business. And the podcast is fun. And so it's nice to be able to use other sides of my brain, because I feel like now that I take that information and all those skills, I can take it back into medicine and it makes me a better doctor.
Yeah. Now, I must warn you, doctor, that podcasting is addictive. You're going to get in and you're going to be driving down the road and you're like, oh, I could interview that person. I could talk about this subject. And it like takes over, man. So what has been one of your most memorable like experiences while starting a podcast and growing it and doing what you're doing?
Yeah. One of the most memorable things is how difficult it is. And not so, all the technical stuff is easy, but putting yourself out there, and that's scary. And what a lot of people do, and I actually interviewed a trauma expert recently, a mental trauma, emotional trauma. And she says our trauma leads us to playing small. And that was profound to me, because what I noticed in my life is that I would get these guests that are amazing, but maybe I wouldn't promote it, or I wouldn't tell my friends to download it. And, I thought I was just being lazy, but no, it was because I was scared. I was scared of imposter syndrome. I was scared of putting myself out there. But you have to do that, and you're doing the people that could be impacted by it a disservice by not putting it out there and making it easy for them to find.
Yeah, I tell you that the imposter syndrome kicks me in the face all the time because I'm like, I'm interviewing you and all these people that are a lot smarter and more successful, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what questions am I going to ask? And then we start a conversation. I'm like, wow, this is a human being who cares about other people. And most podcasters, this is my experience, have a desire to give. Like we're giving all this stuff for free. We're putting ourselves out there. We're hitting record, and it's a lot of work to do. So kudos to you. And it's from MD to entrepreneur. So fellow Deal Scout listeners, like pause this, go over from MD to entrepreneur, subscribe to that, listen to this after this episode, and then give an amazing 5-star review about Dr. Pranay and all the things that he's doing. All right. So back to you. When you're doing the podcast and now you're tapping into different sides of your brain, the creative, the arts, the real estate, the analytical side, the MD side where it's super scientific and there's an art form in there. Like you're tapping all sorts of side of your brains. Let's start with art. What kind of art do you participate in? You're content creating here, but what other art do you do?
Yeah. So, I've never been very artistic. I have difficulty with stick figures sometimes, and when I'm trying to make a point to my patients. So, what I did earlier in life is I made friends with a lot of artists and kind of live vicariously through them. And I thought, I know enough of these people, and a lot of times they want to be able to give back. They want to give to charity, but they're starving artists in the literal sense of the word. So I thought, hey, let me make an art show, curate it, and half of the money goes to the artist so they can buy lunch and dinner and have a house to live in.
Yeah.
But the other half goes to charity, and I don't take a personal cut, which I had no problem with. And so everyone wins, and the people who buy it get this great art and get this tax deduction. And so I tried to just get people around. And, I really believe if you do the right thing for long enough, then things are going to work out.
Yeah. You mentioned our trauma leads us to playing small.
Mm-hmm.
What areas do you feel that you're being called to or pulled to play at a bigger level?
Yeah, I've been fortunate that people believed in me at a time when I didn't really have much to offer. So my business partner offered me a chance to come into his brand that he had built up from scratch, and he had tens of thousands of followers on social media, across it, and I was able to come in with some real estate knowledge and kind of take over the real estate part. And I don't think I could have started my own thing at that. I don't think I could have done the podcast at all back then because I didn't believe in myself and I didn't have the faith, someone else's faith. But now that I was able to kind of, have someone in front of me, kind of protect me from a lot of the imposter syndrome and believe in me, that now, even though it's still difficult, I'm able to come out with the podcast and, help as many people. And I hope that my message kind of resonates with someone else, because it's different than what a lot of people say in medicine. A lot of people think as medicine it is, and it kind of is sometimes, where it's the end goal, right? You become an attending, you have a good salary, but for a lot of us, we're just so used to having something to chase for. It's like the coyote that gets the roadrunner, right? What do you do after that?
Yeah. Man, what is your roadrunner? What are you chasing?
So I am chasing impact and legacy. And, I don't need my name on the side of a wall or anything, but it's about helping people, So I thought, like we all do, how am I going to leave a lasting impact on this world? And for a lot of people in medicine, it's taking care of patients, which I do. But for other people, it's doing research, right? Creating new medicines, new procedures. It just didn't appeal to me. I did it, but it was like claws on a chalkboard. So instead, if I help other doctors that are really interested, really passionate about that, or I help them start their own business, and we've seen over the past couple of years, physician-led businesses are really necessary in life and where we are. So if I help them become successful, not worry about their life, be financially free, have the freedom to do what they want, that's how I'm going to leave an impact.
Awesome work, man. Awesome work. So you graduated from med school, you
Mhm.
got practice in, you're doing internal, and then what made you just go, you know what? I like this thing called freedom. I like doing medicine and I'm going to keep doing that. But I want this thing called freedom. Like what sparked that thought to go, maybe I should look at doing something on the side or something else?
It started right away where I knew that it was really important what I did with my money and wanted it to grow so that I wasn't dependent on my income. And I wanted optionality. I was working a lot in the beginning. So normal shifts for a hospitalist is 14 shifts, 12 hours a day. So a little bit over full time because we do 12-hour shifts. And I was working about 20. So more than times and a half. And I told myself that every 6 months I would cut down 2 shifts. And so, I had to figure out a way to do that. And in the starting, it sucked, right? But I was living by myself. My girlfriend was long distance. So, I didn't have anything better to do. So I just worked. And now I'm down to 10 shifts. So I'm actually even under full time.
Nice.
And this is probably still too much. I probably will cut down to about 7 to 8 by the end of the year. And at that point, medicine is going to be optional. People joke when I talk to them on the phone, our investors, they're like, yeah, is medicine your side gig? It's almost a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're doing, real estate over here, which taps into a certain type of brain, and you're doing art and medicine. For a guy like me, like I love doing, right? I love doing different things because it keeps me excited. It keeps me interested in life. And I feel that the things that I learn over here, I'm plugging into different aspects of my business life, right? So with that, I'm going to ask this kind of both sides of the coin. How has real estate and your investing over here helped you to become a better doctor?
Yeah, one of those things that they don't really explain in medical school, and that, it's not to say anything wrong about them. It's just they don't have time. There's just so much scientific knowledge. They're saying it doubles every 10 years, which isn't that long of a time. And there's already a humongous amount of medical knowledge that you need to know. And to know that half of it is going to be obsolete in 10 years, that's kind of scary.
That's scary. Yeah.
But stuff like negotiation, right? We have to negotiate our deals, talking to people. And that's really the art of medicine. And that's kind of the stuff that your patients remember. They don't really remember the medications you give them, but they remember how you made them feel. And we do them a disservice by not focusing on how we're able to talk to them, hand in hand about how and why to take their medications. A lot of times people will just say, hey, Josh, you got to take this blood pressure medication twice a day. Like, blood pressure is important. I know blood pressure is important. You want to do it, but you probably don't want to take it because the pill's too big. It probably tastes like crap, you know? And that hurts both of us, right? Like, I really want your blood pressure under control, and so do you, but it's up to me to try to convince you to do that, right? Because it's difficult. It's just like exercise, diet, right? All that stuff is difficult. If it was easy, anyone could do it, right? We'd all have 6 packs and be walking around, right?
Yeah.
So negotiation is a big thing, like people skills and trying to help people. And another thing about podcasts is asking good questions, sitting in silence, right? And being able to get the correct information. That's half my job. And one of the reasons why AI isn't going to replace us anytime soon. Yeah, if I feed every correct answer to the computer, yeah, they're going to figure it out. But so could, probably a 5-year-old. But me asking you the right questions and inferring depending on what you're saying and what I think, like, that's going to take a long time to do. So that's on the medicine side. What makes me better on the everything else is that I'm a lifelong learner. I've basically been studying my whole life. And it hasn't stopped in medicine. I'm still looking at new medications all the time, new procedures. Lately, and this is awesome, that chronic diseases like heart failure and diabetes have changed dramatically. Over the past 5 years, it's changed more than the past 20 years. And that is great, but it's also a ton more that we have to learn and teach ourselves. And so if you are a lifelong learner and you're able to assimilate information well, then you can really be good at everything. Eventually, in enough time. That's why I tell doctors, you guys are going to make great entrepreneurs because you're able to pick up a new skill relatively quickly. The only issue is that a lot of times we don't think that, we think that because we're only in one lane, we have to stay in that lane. But, all the really successful people are in multiple lanes. Look at Elon Musk, look at the Virgin guy, and they're focusing on one thing at a time, but they have a lot of things that they're working on.
Yeah. I think that this is so awesome, and I'm glad you're doing this. When you find, that you wanted to explore real estate, you said you've invested in real estate, you've invested in businesses. Like, where do you choose where to put your own money? Because you're making good money now. How do you choose, business versus real estate?
What I've been doing is my money is going into real estate, but my other and probably my biggest asset, my time, is going into building businesses. So
Cool.
that's how I split it up. And so because I'm, dedicating so much sweat equity, right, time into business, I really want my investments to be as little work as possible. That's why I invest in syndications, because someone else does the work for me. Unfortunately, that someone else is me, because most of my investments are in my own deals. But I know it's in good hands between my partners and I.
All right. So explain for fellow deal makers, maybe another doctor listening in, and you're saying, I invest in syndications.
Mm-hmm.
What the heck is that?
Yeah. Fortunately, syndications have been a lot more popular these days. But basically what it is just a group of people coming together, putting in money, and partnering with a real estate expert or a team of real estate experts. So our business is a little bit different. What we do is we split that up into two. So we partner with the real estate expert and we tell them, hey, we want you to focus 100% on the real estate. And we will focus on bringing people together, because we know a lot of doctors and dentists, and we will take care of the money, because it's two different skills. One is a lot of customer service, marketing, on the raising money side, while the real estate's the real estate. There are definitely people that are good at both. But, just like in medicine, a heart doctor is a lot better at controlling blood pressure or heart things than a brain doctor, right? Mm-hmm. They can do it, but it's just better to specialize. So that's what we do.
Got it.
Most importantly, we have a team that can, if something happens, we can pick up the pieces and run the property. But because someone else is doing it, we're really able to focus on maximizing profit.
So you focus on bringing the people together who could fund projects, who could run a deal, right? And allowing your experience in real estate, but operating vicariously through a real estate pro in that area. It sounds like that's your specialty. You're doing that in art, right? Like you find these artists and you help raise money for charity, and you're doing that in real estate. It seems like that at your core is kind of like who you are, putting people together.
Yeah, putting people together. And the word I really like is leveraging. We really like to leverage people's strengths and bring people together. So, we also have an education platform where we bring in experts and they are able to talk about, like self-storage or something like that. And on the podcast, it's all about leveraging other people's skills and what they've been through. So to help people and, kind of take them to the next level.
What would you say is your greatest strength in business?
I think my greatest strength is trying to take stuff that's very complicated and make it easy to digest. And that's what I try to do it in the podcast. And, we have a course that teaches people all about syndications from zero, not knowing anything about real estate, never being a landlord, to being able to confidently invest, to find, vet, and invest in deals. And we created this years ago, back before syndications were really popular, and I had to read a ton of books, and it was painful, but trying to synthesize it and then put it in bite-sized chunks so that a normal person and a busy person could understand it and go through it.
Very cool. So we know your strengths. What would you say is your greatest weakness that you have to depend on others for?
Yeah, and I think every strength really has a corresponding weakness. And a lot of times I focus on big picture. I'm very creative and able to come up with all these solutions. But one issue that I have is with implementation. I'm not, I have problems getting some of the details in. And that's why we have a lot of virtual assistants. We have a project manager, we have a COO that really focuses on making sure the stuff gets done and it gets done properly. And then I'm in meetings to make sure that the plan is kind of followed.
Yeah. Awesome. 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 Yeah. You're a visionary. You're visionary. You're creative. I get it. 100%. Me too. All right. So you decided to get into real estate, right? And you found a group that they're like, hey, instead of go create it on your own, we've got some traction over here. We've got courses, we've got training programs, we've got syndication deals, we've got opportunities. Why don't you just come on over here? Why did you choose to go there versus just start your own from zero?
This is a question that we battle with often, and we're creating the systems just in case that we want to do it. But we believe that we only want to do something if we can be the best at it. And we believed a couple of years ago when we started, we couldn't have been the best. There were people that are just so much better at it, and we've really jumped and leapfrogged over where we were. But we believed at the time the best thing we could do was partner with people and learn everything that they know. And now we're so much ahead. We've done coaching, we've done all this stuff, and we have systems in place now that even they don't have. And so we're pretty proud of it. And potentially maybe in the future we do our own deals, but we have all the infrastructure in place that we could really be best in class, and best in class transparency, communication, and asset management. And now we can really say that we're going to bring something new to the table. And some people ask us, so we do multifamily value add, meaning we buy big apartment complex, we do some renovations, and then we sell it. It's relatively simple. I tell people it's fix and flip in a much larger scale, right?
Yeah.
But people will want us to do hotels or want us to do self-storage. And we tell them that there are great people doing it. And I wouldn't feel right charging you our fees and taking some of your cut, because I wouldn't have anything to add. There has to be at least 10x the value that we add for us to want to get into a deal.
Yeah. How did you choose multifamily rather than self-storage, mobile home parks, fill in the blank? Why did you choose that?
Yeah, we look at what is a necessity, and we want there to be something recession resistant. We started in about 2.5 years ago, and things were great, right? Things were great until a couple months ago, but we knew that it's not going to be gravy all the time, right? And so we want something that is in the middle. So we picked, Class B. So, apartments that are maybe 10 to 15 years old, that need some renovations. And nice thing about that is it's called the Goldilocks class, meaning when there's a recession, people from Class A think, downtown, ton of amenities, they have like a concierge and all that stuff. People from that live there, they might downgrade, realize that, it's a recession, they don't need a concierge and all this other stuff. Or maybe people are priced out of houses. Mortgage rates have doubled, right, in the past 6 months. And people realize, I'll wait another year to buy a house. So they go down to Class B. But, over the past 5 years, when the economy has been booming, people from Class C, which is, 30, 40 years old, maybe they don't really have many amenities, no gym, no pool, stuff like that. Maybe the location isn't great. They say, hey, we've been doing pretty well. Let's upgrade to a Class B. So it works well when there's a recession and then when things are going well. And so we like that.
And you called it the Goldilocks? What do you
Goldilocks class.
Goldilocks class?
Yeah,
Oh, that's
you know,
interesting.
just right.
Just right, right? The three little bears. So as you're doing this, right, you're doing syndicated deals. Now, how do you guys structure the deal? Are you guys creating an SPV for every single deal? Do you guys have a fund? What does that look like?
So we create an LLC for every single deal, which is nice for our investors because that means all the liabilities on us. And the way we work, and you know, I mentioned earlier that we partner. We do a special structure called joint ventures. That means that we are the only money in the deal, and that kind of lets us throw our weight around. So it's kind of the same way, the same structure that Goldman Sachs would do, Blackstone. They're not the ones that are boots on the ground that run the day to day of the property. No, they invest their money and they say in their contract, just like our contract, that you have something called the major decision rights. That means you get to decide pretty much everything. You know, most of the time we don't, but it's nice having that power and ability to decide when do they sell the property, what kind of debt do they use, and things of importance, you know. What is the budget? You know, we really care about the budget. What happens when there's a capital call, meaning that the property needs more money? Who has to put it in? So we're able to decide all that. And that's a special structure that not everyone can do. If you're just raising, you know, 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, even 5 million, and you're part of a deal, they're not going to give you major decision rights. They're going to give you major decision rights because you're all the money for the deal. But on the flip side, people will come to us and bring us deals because they know we can close quickly and they don't need to talk to 5 people. We give them one check and we take care of everything, including investor relations, communication, and all that good stuff.
Yeah. So they come to you and you help bring the deal across the plate. And then afterwards, if there's renovation needed, if there's a capital call needed, they're dealing with one group, one person who handles the raise of additional capital or all these other things, right?
Yeah.
Now, you guys do Class B, 10 to 15 years old, needs value add and renovation, the Goldilocks class. Where do you guys focus this, right? You're in California, I'm in Florida. Is it global? Is it national? Is it just in, yeah, where do you invest?
So, like you mentioned, I'm in California. I'm used to paying California taxes, but most people outside aren't. So, to take care of them, we focus on low tax places or no tax places. So, we've invested in the Sun Belt. We've done Orlando. We've done a lot of Texas, Arizona. So, we are very tax conscious because most of our investors are doctors and dentists and they're at the top of the tax bracket. So, we really try to be conscious of where we invest in.
Yeah. So Sunbelt,
Mm-hmm.
Texas. You mentioned Orlando. We used to live in
Mm-hmm.
Orlando. We're about an hour away. That is a
Awesome.
very Florida is booming. Holy moly, it's doing really
Yeah,
well.
that deal we closed in February, and we bought it for 49 million, and it appraised for 57 right off the bat
Nice.
without us doing a thing on it.
Yeah. Congratulations. Now, a part of your model, you guys buy,
Mhm.
renovate, and then sell, or do you guys
Mhm.
do any holding or no?
So we hold for just as long as it takes to renovate
Mhm.
and find a buyer.
Okay.
So we're in and out relatively quickly, about 3 to 5 years, and we'll try to 1.8 to 2x your money in that time. So that's kind of our goal.
Got it. Awesome. Awesome. Awesome.
That's after all fees and everything. So it's a net.
If the interest rates continue to rise and there's a market shift or something like that, how are you guys going to respond to that with the properties? Or, yeah, like I'll shut my mouth. How are you guys going to respond to that?
Yeah, I'll give you two answers. So existing properties and future properties. So we are pretty conservative when it comes to our properties. We do relatively low leverage. So what we also do is we buy rate caps, meaning that we pay, you know, in before we buy the property, we pay money to our debt. It's kind of like points on a home mortgage, but we tell them, hey, we want the interest rate not to go above this. So we buy that on all our properties. And so that prevents some of the risk. And last couple of years, the adjustable rate mortgages have been so cheap, everyone has been using them. So, and now that's going to change. So for future deals, what we're looking at is we're looking at long-term fixed debt or long-term debt with a long rate cap. And so, 3 to 5 year rate cap, we're willing to pay money for that. But the real important thing is the length of the loan. Over the past, let's say 5 to 10 years, everyone's been getting 3+1+1 loans, meaning it's a 3 year loan. And then at the end of 3 years, you either sell your property, obviously earlier than that you can do it, or you have 2+1 extensions. So, if you don't have a buyer at the end of 3 years, you could potentially be screwed. So that's why we're looking at 10-year loans, where we don't have to pay back for 10 years, and then either a fixed debt or a rate cap so that we don't have to worry. And so that is on the debt side, but we're also putting down a much larger down payment. So that means we're raising more money. So the deal that is going to open next week, we're putting down 40%. So the leverage is only 60%. Yeah. And we're doing that because we really care about downside protection. That's super important to us, super important to most doctors. People say, hey, just don't lose my money. Here it is. Don't lose it, and we're very conscious of that. It's very important that we don't lose their money. My dad invests with us, his friends invest with us. Obviously, I told you, we all invest in our own deals. So very important that we don't lose money. And the way you do that is by making sure that interest payment is very low and that you have enough revenue to cover it. So our debt service coverage ratio, meaning how much we make versus how much our expense, is like 1.7, which most banks require 1.25. So we're way above that. And we're happy with that.
Yeah. That way, if anything happens, if you needed to pull money out of the deal or if you needed to refinance or whatever the case may be, there's room for error. There's room for market changes. There's room for unforeseen things. Nice work. When it comes to the deals, doing syndication deals, Florida, Texas, does someone from the team walk the properties or what's that look like? You guys bought $200 million in real estate in the last 18 months. Is that what you said?
16.
16. Okay. Sorry. So what does that look like on the syndicator side, right? You guys are bringing the money to the table. How do you guys look at, because the real estate professional, they're going to make their money when the real estate closes, right? That's their jam. So they're incentivized to make deals happen. You're incentivized to, make the projects work well financially. So how do you balance that? Are you guys walking the property? Well, talk to us about that process.
Yeah, we walk all of our properties, and not just, and a lot of people do or try to do what we do, but they only walk the property once. We walk the properties at least once a quarter, and up to, or actually most of them right now is twice a quarter. And some of the ones that are just in the beginning, we walk it twice or twice a month, every 2 weeks. So that's after we buy it, and remember that we have the partner that's doing all the same. So we are very hands-on, even though we're on the capital raising side. But in the beginning, we're fortunate that people that we trust that have billions of dollars assets under management, that they've had, average IRR over 20, that they've been through a ton of recession. They bring us deals because we're able to close quickly and bring so much money into the table. So we're able to kind of cherry pick of the deals that we like. So the one that we just closed in August 22nd, you're not going to believe this. The interest rate was 2.9% fixed for 9 years.
When did you get that?
August 22nd is when it closed.
Holy moly. What's it at now? If you were to get that same exact loan, what would it be now?
Probably 5.5.
It's crazy. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And it would be adjustable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So you got a 9-year fixed?
9-year fixed, 2.9%. Oh, and 4 years of interest only on top of that.
Holy moly. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and you guys are planning to sell that. I mean, is that one that you're planning on selling 3-4 years or something like that?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So business model is about 4 years.
Okay.
And so if we could sell it in the interest only period, we're going to be doing great. And the debt service coverage ratio on that is like 2.1.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And one of the deals, by the time you hit the table and you guys did the deal, inked the deal, you were already up 6 or 7 million bucks, right? Is your model dependent on, you guys could do some value add, so you're buying Class B and renovation needed, right? So you come in and add some value, which I want to talk to you about value add. Is your model dependent on appreciation?
So what is going to be very important, and I
Yeah.
want your listeners to keep this in mind, is over the past, I want to say 1 to 2 years, maybe 3 years, you have been able to coast. You just close your eyes, pick a property, buy it, increase NOI, which is how much you make per year, per month, and then per year, 4%, and you'll get double your money. It's been, everyone's winning. And you've been able to do that because there's cheap money, right? Cheap money when you buy the property, cheap money when someone else buys the property. And you've seen a lot of, my partner calls it hot potato, where you'll see someone buy it and then someone else sell it, and then they buy it again and they sell it, and they're like, yeah, this person sucks, and then they'll sell to that person, and then they'll say, oh yeah, that person sucks as well, and you've been able to coast. And you've been able to coast by renovating 10 units, 20 units out of 200 when the business plan is 200. And those days are gone, So now you're going to actually have to have a real business plan and really implement it. And it's going to be important. So for example, the broker that sold us the deal that we're about to sign the contract for, they sold us, really nice PDF, pretty, and they're like, yeah, you should put in stainless steel and here's how much rent you're going to get. And we looked at it and we're like, no way. Like, there's no way people are going to pay stainless steel appliances in this market. There's just no way we're going to spend all this money. We saw hidden value in the property, and we were one of the few that bid on it, and we got a great deal on it. But the standard, we're going to put granite counters, stainless steel, put 5 to 10,000 per unit. That's gone. Now you got to really find hidden value. So the hidden value for this specific deal is we're going to add a bathroom. And that's a little bit more difficult to do. So people kind of go away from that. But adding a bathroom is huge. Think about it. A lot of the older stuff has one bathroom. You could have a 3-1 or worse, a 4-1, 4 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, and I guess people didn't have to pee as much in the 70s.
Yeah, they just did not hydrate very well back then. That's
Yeah.
funny.
And so adding a half bathroom, it's a game changer. And
Yeah.
so we are able to do that for $3,000 to $4,000. That's like the cost of a stainless steel fridge and some granite counters.
Yeah.
But that makes a material difference. That's something I would pay for, right? Another bathroom, I would pay, significant amount for that. And so
Sure.
you got to really have boots on the ground and have a plan that makes sense. I don't want to hear, oh, this is what we always do. This is our standard boilerplate, but how is this different? How have you changed over the past couple of months? Or are you just still doing the same stuff as always?
The hidden value, you gave an example, right? Like one person's like, well, the way we've always done it is this, Bob, right? And they talk about stainless steel and granite and we're going to jack up the rates. And you're like, well, we're in a different market. I don't know if people are actually going to value that as much or care about it this much. But another bathroom, that's a game changer for some people. Because when a family's looking at this apartment versus this apartment and they got kids or something like that, or multiple adults in the house or grown kids, they're going for an extra bathroom. Screw the granite countertops, right? Like, it's just not a need. Super cool. What other hidden values, do you mind giving us maybe 1 or 2 more of things that you guys look for that I might miss?
So in this specific property, just because it's on top of my mind, we're looking at covered parking spots.
Yeah.
So it's in a submarket of Phoenix, and it gets hot, and it sucks when you got to turn on your car and wait for like 5 minutes for it to get inhabitable,
Yeah.
And so covered parking, it costs about $1,500 per spot. And you could charge, anywhere from $20 to $50 per month for that. So you don't do all your parking spots, you do 1 per unit. And it's something that increases their quality of life. It increases the length of how well their car is going to survive, right?
Mhm.
And it's things that are quality of life. So another thing is security. security is a huge one. So adding a fence, adding one of those kind of fences that go in and out, right?
Yeah.
They're a little annoying, but it makes you feel secure. Adding strobe lighting, kind of like the ones that they have in baseballs. Adding cameras, adding a walking patrol at nighttime, where you feel like it's a home and not just a place you are. And small things like that, they don't cost a ton, but really in the end, we want our tenants to be happy and feel safe and secure and in a home. And if you do that, retention will stay up. They'll be happy. One thing we haven't looked into yet, but we're looking at it because we've done it to other properties, is some type of after school program. So we do, in Texas, we do English as a second language. We'll bring in people that will teach about finance, how to create a checking account, how to create a 401k, and, stuff that's just, unfortunately, our school system doesn't teach you the basics of economics and personal finance. So how could we enrich people's lives and provide value for something that doesn't cost us a ton of money?
Yeah. Dr. Pranay, you travel, right? You're driving, especially like in LA. Holy moly, it takes you forever to go from point A to point B. What's your favorite song? If I looked at your phone, what's your favorite song for the past 20 years?
Oh, that's a quick one. Let me think about that. I actually I don't listen to music as much
Really?
because I listen to a ton of podcasts. I listen to probably 30 to 40 hours of podcasts a
Wow.
week. So I can tell you my favorite podcast.
What's your favorite podcast besides
Yeah.
mine and besides yours?
Of course, yeah. I really like 99% Invisible. So he talks about how architecture affects our life. So, for example, he talked about gargoyles and the history behind those. He talked about how we had, when you go to on sidewalk and there's that little indentation or a little ramp for people that have wheelchairs. And, I've recognized that a lot more because now I have a stroller because I have a young child, and I realized like this place must, like, just life in general must be difficult for people that have wheelchairs. But that ramp just became a federal regulation like 15 years ago, right? Think about human history, how long people have been requiring wheelchairs, but that's just something that happened not that long ago.
Yeah, we live in a house that's a couple hundred or 100 something years old, and the bathroom doors, some of the doors are like tiny, like there's no way it's accessible, right? And just like that, what a thing that we take for granted, being able to walk, step over curbs until you have a stroller and a kid, right? And now you're like, oh,
Yeah.
wow, awesome. So 99% invisible.
Yeah. By Roman Mars.
Real quick, give us a fact about the gargoyles. I haven't heard that episode. I haven't heard the podcast either. But what's something that interesting about gargoyles?
Yeah, so it was based on European architecture back in the day, and they thought that at the top of the buildings that there would be demons, and so it was a way to kind of scare those spirits away and protect a building.
Now it just scares my kids when they see that. Awesome. So, Dr. Pranay, during this interview, there's probably a question that I should have asked you, besides like where could people go to find and connect with you? We'll do that at the end. But there's probably a question that I should have asked you that I did not. What question should I have asked you?
One question that I get relatively often is, how do I plan on spending my time in the future? Right? With so many things going on, it's kind of difficult. And, it's something that I'm grappling with. And I haven't found a good answer. And that's because in medicine, there's a minimum amount that you need to do to kind of stay sharp. And it's probably somewhere around 5 to 7 shifts a month, which is why I kind of picked that number for what I'm cutting down to. And especially for something like internal medicine, where you focus on basically everything on the inside. And there's a lot of stuff in there. And the knowledge of that is changing. So that's something I'm going to grapple with how I want to make an impact, because I also want to help as many people as I can. So Yeah, once I figure that out, I'll let you know.
Yeah. Now you have is this your first child?
First child.
All
Yep.
right. Boy or girl?
Boy.
Okay. 15 years later, 15 years down the line, he comes across this cassette player, with our interview or whatever, and you get to share a piece of wisdom for your boy 15 years in the future. What piece of advice do you have for your kid in the future?
When I was younger, I was always scared to start something, scared to to look like a fool, and I think about how many things I could have started and failed at when I was younger, then I would be so much more successful. I would have gotten the failure out of the way and found things that I enjoyed. So, for example, I had a blog and I was never very good at writing and it lasted a couple months and sucked. In the long run, it made me a much better writer. Actually, I did a master's program and I had forgotten a 5-page essay, and my professor emailed me, "Hey, where's your essay?" I was like, "Oh, let me just send it to you." And like 2 hours later, I was able to finish it. And that's
Nice.
because I had done all these blog posts. Of course, I'd wait till the last minute before it was due, but I got something out of it regardless. But I found out that I just didn't really like writing, and that's why I started a podcast actually, because I like to talk and I like to meet people. And because I did that failure, and had I done that failure 10 years ago, maybe I would have found podcasting earlier.
Yeah. Dr. Pranay, there's other doctors out there. There's other people out there, dentists and chiropractors and all the whole gambit. And there's just people interested in who you are and what you've got going on. What's a good way for them to connect with you and do a deal?
Yeah. So we made a special landing page for your guests.
Thank
You
you.
can see, yeah, you can connect with me, LinkedIn, Facebook. There's a couple little resources that we've given. So if people are interested in how they find their own deals, we have our exact little cheat sheet that we've created for us and we use all the time. It's free. Just go on there, download it. We have this little fun quiz. It helps you figure out if active versus passive real estate is fun for you. And then there's also a way to jump on the phone with me, which, I'm happy to talk to anyone, physician or not. And that's dealscout.ascentequitygroup.com.
Awesome. And what we'll do is we'll put that in the show notes, but it's Deal Scout or say that one more time.
Dealscout.ascentequitygroup.com.
Very cool. Hey, I didn't even ask you to do that. Thank you so much for even thinking about my listeners and putting that together. We'll put that in the show notes. Dr. Pranay, thank you so much for coming on the show. Fellow deal makers, as always, reach out to our guests and find those free resources and find ways to educate yourself and maybe even do a deal with them. All their contact information will be in the show notes below. If you have a deal that you'd like to talk about here on the show, head over to thedealscout.com, fill out a quick form, maybe get you on the show next. Till then, we'll talk to you all on the next episode. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.